Hello there, designer. You're welcome to this YouTube channel. Right, I'm thinking that this is your first time hearing from us or watching our tutorial, or you've been watching our tutorials for quite a while. Now, this is our first tutorial for the year, and I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ruth Kenneth Uchuche from Style with Bloom. Right, now, onto the tutorial. This tutorial is for you if you are a beginner, right? If you are a beginner that is trying to learn pattern drafting and you experience issues with getting the perfect armhole, how to get the pattern to fit when you cut, right? And so this is for you. And then of course, if you are learning how to draft patterns from scratch, maybe even as an advanced designer, right, and you just have realized that it's time to learn pattern drafting, then this is also for you, right? So in this tutorial, we're going to be drafting our full scale block from the very scratch. So you want to stay tuned, ensure that you subscribe to this channel, and practice so that you're able to retain all the knowledge that is shared here. So do well to subscribe to this channel and stay connected on our social media platforms. So we'll be going on to the tutorial right away. So in this tutorial, we're going to be drafting our full scale bodies, and I'm going to be working with a length of 24. That is my shoulder to hip, and then a shoulder to waist point for the front of 16, shoulder to waist of the back of 14, bust circumference of 34, hip circumference of 36, shoulder of 15 inches. So that is just an average of what we're using in summary, right? So now a full scale bodies is a bodice block, or a full scale block is a block that stops at your hip line. It's from here you can alter into your shirts, into your fancy tops that don't have peplum, right, into your blazers as well. So we're going to be going ahead now to draft this. Of course, if you've watched our half scale bodice block video, you would see that we already usually will start with a box, which is the widest part of the circumference divided by 2. So for this, since this is our full scale, the hip is bigger than the bust, right? So the hip circumference is 36. 36 divided by 2 is 18. 18 plus 2 is 20, and that is how I got this box, right? This entire block of paper that I've cut out. So I have 20 from side to side, right, for the width of this paper. And then the length of this paper is my shoulder to hip on the dots, right, especially that of the front. So the next thing we're going to be entering are our measurements. Now, of course, you'll be wondering what this dividing line is. This line is this your box divided by 2. So I have 20. The midpoint of this is 10. I've taken it from up down, and that makes it half. So now you can take this as your front and take this as your back. So I'm going to be drafting our full scale bodice, and let me use this to welcome every new subscriber on this channel. It's been a while since I put up a tutorial. Well, you're welcome to this channel, and of course we want you to look forward to detailed sewing tutorials that actually help you in your sewing skills and of course in your fashion business. So let's go ahead right away to start. So first of all, I'm going to be taking out my shoulder to hip, which is 24 inches. So I'm taking that. I'm also taking my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10. I'm also taking that across my block. Now my shoulder to my under bust is 14. I'm also taking that across this block. Now this is our front part, so we're drafting our front and back together like we did for our half scale body. So if you've not seen that video, it is going to be linked in the description box. You want to check the description box and see how to draft your half scale bodies. So I'm going to draw out all of these lines. And of course my hip line is somewhere here. So for your back, many times you don't need your bust line, you don't need your under bust. But for our back, I'm going to be taking my shoulder to my back. That's my shoulder to my waist for the back, which is 14 inches. And you can see me taking that out here, 14 inches. And then now to get the length of your back, you're going to measure from your waistline on the front block to your hip line. So my waistline is, oh, I did not add my waistline on this. My waistline is 16. That's shoulder to waist is 16 for the front, and for the back is 14. And why is it different? Because you have your bust in front, so actually it's not the same thing. Now if you're still confused about this, you want to look into our beginners class. I will be dropping the link in the description that you can use to reach out to us to register for our beginners class. We have them every month, and we also have a follow-up system that really allows you to submit your assignments and do your practicals, so you actually learn and you can ask questions. So back to our tutorial. Now I have my shoulder to bust, which is 10, shoulder to waist, shoulder to under bust, which is 14, shoulder to waist, which is 16 inches. So for now, for the back, the shoulder to waist is 14 inches, and I told you that it's because you have breasts in front, right? You can't take it as the same thing, right? So I'm going to draw this out. That is 14. Now to get the length of your back, because of course your back is going to be shorter than your front, and when it's not going to show on your dress. When you make your top, it's going to be normal, but because we are going to have a bust that equalizes everything. So to get the length of your back, after taking your back, that's shoulder to waist for the back, which is 14, you're going to come to your front and measure from your waistline to your hip. That's your shoulder to your waist from the front, from that waistline to your hip, and I have 8. So I'm going to come to this my back waistline and add that 8, and that is the length of the back, right? That's the length of the back. If you don't understand this, you actually want to reach out to us and ask your questions, and you'll be appropriately attended to. So of course we're drawing out our length for the back. So our back and our front lengths are not equal. Right, they're not equal. So at this point I'm going to be labeling our lines: bust, under bust, waist, waist, and then hip. So the next thing we're going to be taking is our neckline, and we're going to be determining our armhole. And if you have issues with the cutting of that area, you want to pay attention to what we're doing. So this is the center of our front, and this is the center of our back, right? So I'm going to be taking out my neckline of 3 inches. Now to get your neckline is usually your bust circumference divided by 12. So my bust circumference divided by 12 is 2.83. I'll just use 2.875. Right, 2.875. Or I can use 2.75. And I'm going to take that all round like you can see me doing. So you can see that. Now of course from this center front, you also take your shoulder divided by 2, which is 7.5 for me. My shoulder is 15. Divided by 2 is 7.5 inches. So you take that from the center front, your neck and your shoulder divided by 2. You also repeat the same process for the back. So our neckline 7.5, and our shoulder rather 7.5, and our neckline 2.75. Now I can actually round this off to 3, but because what I'm going to be using this full scale block for is something that has a collar, I actually want the neck to be as fitted as possible, so I have reduced any extras, right? So I literally even rounded that down. Now the standard for your neck depth for your back is 1 inch, so you mark that, and then you're going to use your curve to draw out your neckline. So I want you to just see how I'm placing this curve and drawing out my neckline. I'm sure you saw that. You can also see this one. So I've drawn this out. Usually actually you use pencils for your pattern drafting, so I'm using pencils, but eventually I'm going to have to highlight this so that you can see what I am doing. So eventually I would highlight the marker. Now the next thing you want to do is slant your shoulder I'm going to be slanting my front by 1.5 and my back by 1. And you're slanting from your shoulder divided by 2. Now next measurement you want to get is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. That's how you get your chest line and connect your armhole. So next thing we're doing at this point is to divide our bust by 6 plus 1.5, and for me I have 7.16. I can choose to just use 7.1 for my shoulder slant, right? 7.1 for my shoulder slant. When I measure this from up, it is 8.1. So that's from my original start line before I slanted the shoulder. So that 8.1, I'm going to take it round from the back through to the front. So after taking that out, the next thing you want to do is divide this by 2 from your shoulder slant to your chest line. And once you do that, you mark that down. Now you can use your curve rule to just place here. That's from where your shoulder divided by 2 is entered, right? That's 7.5. I'm placing it there, and on this midpoint of my armhole, I'm coming in by 1/2 inch for the back. Now on this place for my center back on the chest line, because this is now our chest line across from the back to the front. So on this chest line, I'm taking my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 8.5 inches. So we're going to use the curve rule to connect all these points together. So the next thing you want to do is tighten your back. And for the back, we're going to be doing a tightening of 0.75 inch. You can do 0.5 inch. And I'm going to connect this straight up. Right. Now, from this tightening line, you're going to take your waist divided by 4. The waist circumference that I'm working with is 6.25. So I'm working with a waist circumference of 25 inches. So 6.25, I've taken that out, and then you can go ahead and just hold on. Don't draw your line yet because we're going to take our dart. Now we're going to come to our front as well. You're going to take your bust circumference divided by 4, which is round bust, that is 8.5. And then your waist circumference divided by 4, which is 6.25 for me. And then of course your hip circumference divided by 4, which is 9 that I am working with. So for this point as well, from this your center front line, or center back line rather, you're going to take out that hip circumference divided by 4. And you can see the curve already. Your hip is the widest point, right? So we're not going to connect these lines yet, actually. We're going to impute our darts. So the next thing you want to do here is divide your bust span, which is your nipple to nipple, by 2. So my bust span is 7 inches. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. So you take that on your bust line. You also take that on your under bust. Now your under bust is usually not used for your basics, actually. So your under bust line is very optional until you're working with bustiers and all. And then your under bust line becomes very necessary. So many times on your basic block, what you would have is your waistline and your bust line. This comes in when you're working with bustiers. So the same 3.5 I'm taking on my waistline, and then for my hip line I want to come up by 2 inches and mark that down. That is where this dart will stop. So we're going to draw a straight line and connect all of these points together to where we have marked for our dart to stop. So we have drawn out our dart line. Now on your waist, you go ahead and take out your dart, and for me I'm using 0.75 on both sides, right? So you're going to connect this back to your bust point and back to your 2 inches above your hip. So just watch closely, especially if you're a beginner. And then up to this our 2 inch point be above the hip. So we have our dart point. Now you can see where we marked for our waist, right? You're going to come out by, you measure out your dart, which is about 1.5, and you add it back. If you don't add it back, you're going to end up with a shortage. So only now can you go ahead and connect your lines, right? So you're going to connect all of your lines from your bust point to your waist and then to your hip line. Now we're going to also repeat the same thing for the back. You take out your dart, your bust span divided by 2, which is 3.5 inches. You come up from this hip line by 2 inches, right? And then you come down from your chest line by 1 inch. So you connect all of these points. This becomes your dart line. I extended by mistake, so I'm going to erase that. Please, if you're yet to subscribe to this channel, at this point you can actually go ahead and subscribe to this channel, right? And if you have questions that why are we doing 0.75 instead of 0.5, which is the usual, you actually want to take our beginners class. Our classes are more detailed than tutorials. Tutorials don't give you as much time to explain, so that the video doesn't become too long. So many times you actually want to go ahead and take a paid class, and there every reason why we do what we do is explained. So you can reach out to us through the link in the description, and of course you'll be guided on how to get into class. So I've drawn out the dart for the back, and of course you want to replace it. So we did 0.75 plus 0.75 is 1.5 inch. So you add it back after your waist divided by 4, and then now you can connect. Now you can see this point, there's some sort of extra there that was taken out in the process of tightening. If you don't do this tightening, you have a zipper bulge. That's why we did this tightening. So this extra here, we're going to add it back to our bust point, and from here you're going to connect to your waistline and then into your hip divided by 4 that we already measured here. So you can see we have our full scale block. Now this tightening point, you're also going to connect it back to your hip line, and basically that is what we have here. So you can always alter this pattern to whatever you want to alter it to. It's quite clear, right? And if you don't quite understand what I'm saying, just follow and master. That's usually the beginning, and then you would understand. Now the last thing we're going to be imputing is our bust dart. And I told you that my shoulder to waist for the back is 14, and my shoulder to waist for the back is 16. So 16 minus 14 is 2 inches. So from your bust line, you're going to come down by 2 inches, and then you're going to connect it back into your bust point. This is your bust dart, right? So you can see we have our bust dart. It's as basic as that. So we're going to be going ahead right away to cut this out, and then after cutting it out, of course I'm going to show you how to equalize the back and the front. That's the reason I'm going to cut this out on camera. So I'll highlight all my lines and I'll cut out, and we're done with this tutorial basically, right?